We got everything ready, and I ended up using an SBA loan, 10% down, bought the real estate and the business, and I was able to negotiate 5% seller carry. So then I only put 5% of my own equity down.
Welcome to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, 𝐵𝐺𝐻𝐿 and 𝐓𝐢𝐻𝐿. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Welcome back to today's episode of the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, 𝐵𝐺𝐻𝐿, and today we are thrilled to have Keegan Schaub on the show joining us today. How's it going, Keegan?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I'm really excited for this interview today because you are one of the few people who have managed to own and operate a home from afar for assisted living. So I think that will be really of interest to our listeners, and your backstory is pretty incredible. So really looking forward to getting into it. So with that, Keegan, why don't you tell us kind of where you are right now in your assisted living journey before we jump back in time to where it all started?
Yes. So right now I own and operate 2 Airbnbs remotely, and I also have an assisted living in Tucson that I also own and operate remotely.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about all 3 properties.
Let's see. So I started out with the 2 Airbnbs, got into that in 2021, 2022 when they were really blowing up. And just recently, within the last year or two, Airbnbs really didn't pencil out much anymore. And I was like, okay, what do I move on to next? And my career as a physical therapist, been a PT for 5 years. And so I know the assisted living world, the ins and outs. And I was like, okay, let's combine that with Airbnb. And I found assisted living homes. I think I listened to a few podcasts that really opened my eyes to the opportunity.
That's awesome. And I was getting into Airbnbs the same time you were, 2020, actually, I guess pre-COVID, and rode that whole wave through. I had pivoted from multifamily to short-term rentals to focus more on cash flow instead of slower wealth building. And it was a good move. But yeah, after the inflationary run, everything fizzled out, rates went up, prices went up. And then it became really hard to get into. Luckily, I got in at a good time. But yeah, getting into Airbnb now is a tough thing to do. It would not be my first choice.
Yeah. When you run the numbers now, assisted living homes can cash flow 2, 3, 4x more than a short-term rental. So
yeah,
it just makes sense.
Doesn't even compare. And we tell people this is the highest and best use for a residential home. I've never seen anything beat it. Have you?
No.
Yeah. And it's cool because on the Airbnb side, yes, you can cash flow a certain amount. With assisted living, you have the option. You can either operate the business and cash flow a lot with a lot of work, or you could do the way we got started is we bought homes built out for assisted living and leased them out to assisted living operators. So we're basically making Airbnb like the good old days Airbnb cash flow of thousands a month without actually operating the business, which was pretty eye-opening for us. Oh, okay. So we could buy homes at residential homes at today's prices with crappy lending terms and cash flow pretty well, somewhat passively. I don't believe that anything in real estate is ever passive, but that's pretty close, which was eye-opening for us, right? And so that was how we got started in assisted living. And so just kind of keep that in mind for the listeners. There's more ways to do it. And there's folks out there that want to start their business, but don't have the cash to buy the home. That's a perfect opportunity to pair up and work together. Okay, sorry. I know that was a bit of a tangent, but I would love to hear, Keegan, you have a really interesting journey of how you forayed into assisted living and how you kind of discovered that. Would you mind giving us that background?
Yeah, so the last 5 years have been a whirlwind. I've been a physical therapist for 5 years, and after COVID, it was really tough. My dad passed away during COVID. He had cancer unrelated to COVID, but it really taught me a lot of lessons being by his side it was probably the hardest time of my life, and learned a lot and decided to get into Airbnb. I realized time freedom is very important. My dad worked his whole life and was very proud of his savings and investments, but he wasn't there much for me as a kid. And I also wanted to tribute him. and what he was able to gift me and my family. But anyways, I started out in Airbnb, I think in 2022, and that was going pretty well. And and then got into assisted living last year. And since then it's just been a whirlwind. My fiance is a travel nurse, and the last 2 or 3 years we've been traveling. We've been to Colorado, Georgia, Maine, California. And so I was forced to invest in real estate remotely. I couldn't invest in my backyard because we were traveling. And so forced me to buy properties that were easy to manage remotely, which is a pro and a con. But it's been a challenge, and I'm very grateful for all the lessons I've learned. It's been fun.
So you decided you wanted to make it as challenging as possible by doing assisted living remotely.
Pretty much. I just wanted to jump in. I was like, man, I'm sitting here on the sidelines. I love traveling. I don't want to give up traveling, but at the same time, I just want to jump in.
I love that. And there's a lot of people out there who are afraid of that. And if you're listening, just take the action, because Keegan's able to travel the world and travel all around the country and operate an assisted living home from afar. So if he can do it, hopefully most can do it. And so let's dig into that a little bit. So how did this first home come across? How did you find out about it? And how did you find that specific home?
Yeah, so my main market, I was looking in Arizona. One of my Airbnbs is in Sedona, so I just figured that would be a perfect spot because I fly down to Phoenix all the time. I did a little research, found a real estate agent who specializes in assisted living. Got on a meeting with her, and she would send me deals over the course of 3 or 4 months, and I'd run the numbers. Most of them didn't really work out. I think I was under contract for one, but ended up getting out due to some sketchy financials. But this was a pocket listing that she had in Tucson. The previous owner lived in Phoenix, and she had owned it, but had started her own home health business that was really taking a lot of her time. So she wanted to sell the assisted living home. Flew down there, met with her, did the whole tour. The financials worked out pretty well. I interviewed the manager that did all the day-to-day at the house, and he was super kind and told me he's going to stay and really cares about the home. I fell in love with the home and the residents and the caregivers. A lot of the caregivers have been there for 2-3 years. Our overnight guy's been there for 10 years. So the stars all aligned, and I was like, this is it, let's do it. And so I just pulled trigger.
Wow. Wow. That's a pretty crazy alignment of everything working out. You didn't have to figure out a new manager. You didn't have to figure out new staff. Was the home fully occupied at the time? How many beds is it? Give me kind of an idea there.
Yeah, so it's an 8-bedroom home. It's licensed for 10. I believe when I took it over, it had 1 vacancy. And I made sure to talk with the owner and get a sense of what the occupancy looked like. She said, well, usually it's about 90%, 80-90% occupancy, and did all the due diligence. Yeah.
License for 10. Do you sleep 10 or do you sleep 8?
I like to keep the rooms private, so I just do a single person per room, but I could definitely double up the rooms if I needed.
Okay. And you have a manager that manages it full time for you.
That's a whole nother story. What ended up happening is I acquired the home, and a month later, the manager quit. Just left me.
That he was going to stay, quit. That makes sense.
Yes, exactly. So that was my biggest hurdle. That. Yeah.
Well, what happened? How did you overcome it? What about licensing? Give us the deep dive here.
Licensing. So what people can do is they can pay a manager to hang their license. And so I reached out to a bunch of people I knew down there, and they suggested kind of consultants-based lady who hangs her license. And so I reached out to her, and she was a big help and was able to hang her license in the meantime. And I still work with her today. So that was like me trying to stress out and try to find someone, because you only are allowed 1 month once you lose your manager to find a new license in the state of Arizona. And at the time I was living in Maine, so I had to fly back to Tucson twice to figure it all out. But we got through it and ended up hiring a new manager who recently I just let go and decided, I'm comfortable with remotely managing it myself. I still use the lady who hangs her license for compliance, and she'll visit the home once or twice a week. But my caregivers are strong. They've been there for years. I trust in them to take over some of the bigger management tasks. And yeah, this is what we're doing moving forward. So I'm super excited.
Wow. Interesting. So you technically are the manager, right? You just don't have the training to be licensed.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So interesting turn of events, and you still managed to figure it out, which is pretty cool. So what was the biggest challenge with losing a manager at that time? Was it the kind of finding somebody else? How did you even know what to do at the time?
It was a lot of sleepless nights. I'll say that. A lot of stress. I got on the phone immediately and started calling everyone I knew. I reached out to the previous owner and said, hey, the manager quit. She was shocked too. And she was able to refer me to this lady who hangs her license. And you just take it day by day. And you figure it out. It's part of investing in real estate. And there's no reward without risk. And yeah.
Interesting. Okay. We're going to hit some more challenges, I'm sure. But one of the big ones that we often hear about is financing and getting the home purchased. How did you go about financing that?
So I believe I reached out to a loan broker first, which I would highly recommend working with a loan broker because they can find the best rates, especially for assisted living homes. Yeah. And he was amazing. He was able to get me a great rate, but reached out to him first because I knew I wanted to buy an assisted living. I was just waiting for that deal to come across my desk and I wanted to be prepared. And so we got everything ready and I ended up using an SBA loan, 10% down, bought the real estate and the business, and I was able to negotiate 5% seller carry. So then I only put 5% of my own equity down.
That's amazing. And how much was that? What was the price for everything?
Yeah, so the total price was 1.4. The business was 80,000. And I don't think she was pricing the business correctly. The real estate we had appraised at 1.32. And she was asking, I think it was 1.35, and I increased the price a little bit. That way I could have a little seller finance from her. So I wouldn't have to put as much down.
That's awesome. So for everybody listening, Keegan took advantage of the SBA 10% down and then had the seller basically pay for half of that to provide a 5% seller carryback. Really, Keegan only had to come to the table with 5%-ish to close this. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's awesome. It's awesome. A lot of folks are worried about money on these deals, but you just proved right there that you got into a $1.4 million opportunity cash flowing deal for 5%, which is crazy. Love that.
Yeah. I was super proud of my loan broker for coming through because, in the final days of closing, we had to come up with a loan and from the bank, and he was able to pull through. Another reason to work with loan brokers because they can just go to bat for you when you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I've had things fall apart at the last minute. That's nerve-wracking. The lender that you've been working with for a month is, we can't do those terms anymore. You're like, oh, don't you dare.
And you're like, oh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I had a lender that decided last minute that they were going to change the terms entirely on me. I was like, okay, I'll find someone else for that relationship. But that drives me insane when a lender says they're going to do something and then they do something different at the end. Oof. That will only happen with me once. And I'm going to tell everybody I know what happened. Hey there, sorry to interrupt this episode, but I've got a question for you. Do you want to share in the wealth and incredible returns from the highest demand asset class in real estate without the hassle of doing it all yourself, or at least not yet? Residential assisted living is booming and it's only gaining momentum. That's why we created an investment fund at Open Range Capital, so you can benefit without the heavy lifting. With the silver tsunami upon us, demand for assisted living is far outpacing supply, making this the can't miss opportunity for the next few decades. We provide access to fully vetted investment opportunities that are primed for success and ready to deliver strong passive returns. Don't wait, ride the wave with us. Visit theralroom.com/invest to partner with us on future investment opportunities. Again, that's theralroom.com/invest. We look forward to connecting with you. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, that's not good. Blow up deals. And I believe if you're going to go the SBA route, it helped a lot with my physical therapy backgrounds. The SBA likes to see some experience, especially if you're a newbie. So I was able to leverage being a physical therapist and knowing the business. And then they collateralized the home, I believe, because I bought both the home and the business. So in order to push the deal through, I believe that's how they did it.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, having an experience that is helpful, especially for getting that first SBA loan. So another common challenge is staying fully occupied. I know you said the home had a history of nearly 90% occupancy. What's been your biggest key to success when it comes to finding residents?
Yeah, so I bought the home last summer, and since then, occupancy has been a little bit lower than what I had expected. So I would recommend anyone getting into assisted living or buying a new home, reach out to the previous owner. This is what I did. Get a long list of referral agents in the area, the cheat code, and just call almost all of them and just see what the occupancy looks like, what the prices look like. They're going to be your inside knowledge of the assisted living in that market. And then, yeah, so for me, about every month to a couple weeks, I'll just blast a text message to all the referral agents. Just say, hey, we got an open room, 2 open rooms. Let me know if you have any clients interested. And then I just recently started working with the conversion formula.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Scott
I'm
Wells.
sure you guys, yeah.
Yeah.
So signed up with him, and he's going to help a lot with just getting those organic leads, because the referral agents are not cheap.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify there. When you say referral agents, you actually mean referral agencies. You don't just mean anybody who might refer someone to you.
Correct. So that was my low-hanging fruit, if you want to call it. They're going to be the ones who are going to have clients like right away, and they'll let you know right away. You also want to market the neighborhood. So there's a retirement community next to our home, and they put out like a semi-annual magazine that we'll put stuff in, and started a Facebook group and Google business account, stuff like that. Yeah.
They're just getting rolling. We'll come back a year from now and find out where most of your residents came from. It'll be interesting to see, because you're getting the ball rolling. You chose the easy button, which I don't think is a bad thing on the placement agents, but it's extremely expensive. So now you're rolling out all the other options, the marketing with Scott Wells and building your own presence, because that's going to be most important. Once people see your quality of care in the community, then the list will be made, right? Yeah, excited to see where you're at a year from now, and we can come back to the table and see.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn. I'm super excited for the next year. I've learned so much in the last 10 months.
Let's talk about that. So we had the manager snafu. We've learned a little bit about occupancy. We learned about SBA loans. What are some of any other bigger lessons learned or takeaways that you have over the past 9 months?
Yeah, I would say staffing is probably the number one concern with assisted living homes, finding good caregivers and a manager if you're going to use one. This was my first attempt at being the boss, having staff under me. And so there was a lot to learn with that, managing people, managing conflicts. But yeah, that's definitely very important. That's probably number one problem I hear with people who own assisted living facilities and homes, is just the caregiver turnover so high. It's good to find good working staff.
So have you had to hire any new staff in the last 9 months?
Yes, my night staff has been consistent, which is awesome. The day staff, I run 2 caregivers during the day, 1 at night, and there's been some turnover with the day shift. And I've learned the hard way. It's very costly to get new caregivers, interview, post on Indeed. And then I've had to pay for a staffing agency to come in. You're also paying for overtime if your current caregivers are working more than 40 hours. So I've learned is a big monthly expense, is not having a good core staff.
Okay. What was your experience with the staffing agency? Did you like it, not like it?
It's nice to know that it's there as for an emergency if someone were to not show up. But I think I've used them 3 times, and one time one of the residents fell, and it just wasn't what I had expected when I have worked with them. I would recommend only use them in a pinch, emergency. It's nice to know that they're there. but they're also very expensive. And yeah.
So what's your hiring process look like now? Any big lessons learned from that?
Yeah. So I'll post on Indeed if I really need to. Indeed is very costly. There's some Facebook groups, caregiver groups I'll post on, employment groups. I surprisingly get a lot of referrals from the current staff. A lot of times they'll have family members that are also caregivers. I got 2 sisters that work for me. They're really great. So that's a good kind of tactic to use. But those are some of my strategies to get good staff in.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so if you were to start over, you rewind back to last summer, and you go to purchase this home, what would you do differently, or what would you change?
Yeah. So I'm very much I like to jump in, go getter type of person. And looking back, I realized it probably would have been very helpful to reach out and talk to someone who's already doing it, who's been in the field, owns homes for 1 to 2 years, get knowledge from them. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to take on, and it puts you at more risk just jumping in. So if I went back, that's probably what I would do. I would recommend anyone who wants to own the business and the home like I did. It's a lot. And so it can be very lucrative, but it's a lot of work. And so I would recommend reaching out to people, getting your systems and automations in place.
Yeah, and there's more resources for that now.
Yeah.
Facebook groups. That's why we created a mastermind, 'cause we saw a need for people to be able to network with other people who are doing the thing, right? As opposed to just trying to figure it out yourself. This is not Airbnb, right? This is
No.
a totally different world. It's a lot harder, and it can be very state or market dependent too. So just jumping out there and, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this, wing it, right? Keegan did. You're an example of, hey, it was still possible, right? But we learned some big mistakes about sprinkler costs, other things that we want most people to avoid, right? So if you can find somebody who's been there, done that can save you the pain that you could potentially go through, I think that's always worth it.
Yeah. And that's what some of the big podcast hosts, you guys, I listen to Brian Lewin all the time.
Oh, yeah. Love Brian.
Yeah. That's what they push. Find someone who's doing what you want to do and go talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone just getting into the business? Anything we haven't touched on?
Yeah. Like I said, find someone. I'd say get all the people on your team in a row, like I did. Reach out to a lender, loan broker. Definitely find a real estate agent in the market that specializes in assisted living, because they're going to be your number one resource. Don't just go on 𝐼𝐻𝐻, Biz Buy Sell, and start messaging the agent there. You want to find someone who specializes in assisted living. That's going to be crucial. And just get your team in a row before you start making offers. And also, I've spoke with a lot of people who look over financials for assisted living, and they look over a lot of the hidden expenses that you may not know are there, but you find real quickly once you start operating the business. A lot of people don't know if they'll have to pay a manager if they don't want to operate it themselves. And that's just one example. Payroll can be very expensive, like I was saying, if you pay overtime or staffing agency. And occupancy is also kind of a question mark. That the smaller homes are you lose 1, 2 residents, there goes 30, 40% of your revenue. So you definitely have to make sure you know what your break-even point is and monitor the downside risk.
Man, there were a bunch of really good points there. One is build the team before you go. And it's interesting to me that, and it took me a long time to learn this as a real estate investor first, but like, you can't just assume everything's going to work itself out. You need to find the right people to put on your team, the right lender, which a lot of people don't think of as a teammate, but they are a teammate. You guys need to be on the same page. The right inspector, the right agent, the right manager, the right folks you can lean on in the industry so that you can be successful. I love what you said about analyzing a property, and it is a big weakness. It's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, and the financials are not always easy to decipher, but you need to be able to break that down and be able to project your business. And that's something that the calculator we built does, is shows you exactly where your break-even point is. Because like you said, especially on a smaller home, it may take there's a point. Is it 5 residents? Is it 6 residents? Where you break even? You have to be above that, or you're floating on the bills yourself, which payroll, of course, is huge. And you can't just not have 24/7 staff. It's important to be thinking ahead on this and go, okay, how many months when I buy this business before I become break even? And what does my occupancy need to stay at to make sure I can pay all the bills? And how big of a reserve do I need to have to be able to handle months? Because you could have 2 residents pass away and 1 leave in a month, and now you're negative and oops, like you have to be able to financially handle that. That has to be part of your plan, because it does everyone a disservice to not be prepared for a scenario like that. You still need to be able to pay your staff and have benefits for them. You want to be able to retain those great staff members. You still want to be able to operate a great home and not cut corners on expenses, because ultimately cutting corners on staff or on the home, now you're not providing the best possible care you can provide to your residents.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This isn't Airbnb. You have staff, their livelihoods, their families. You also have residents who need care. And so this is like something to be taken very seriously. You want to make sure the numbers work.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's bring this home here. Keegan, what are your plans for the future? Are you going to be purchasing more homes, same area? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my fiance and I, we've decided to settle down in the Pacific Northwest, and recently I just got my real estate license, so I'm looking to
Congrats.
niche into assisted living, expand my portfolio up here, be closer to the home. But I'm also still a physical therapist. I work PRN 15, 20 hours a week. It keeps me in the know-how with this. I work in the assisted living, bigger facilities. And so just roll with that. And I juggle a lot, but I like it.
I feel the same way. That's awesome. Cool. There's that area, there's a lot of assisted living up there. And the state pays pretty well, which is interesting. Very different from Phoenix. You may find some interesting differences, and you could potentially have smaller homes that cash flow.
Yeah.
We know of an agent who sells 4-bed homes that cash flow, which is crazy. So anyway,
crazy.
That'll be a good opportunity for you. Being a specialist, let's keep in touch, because we have a lot of members that need real estate agents who understand assisted living, which for our listeners, there are very few out there who really understand this industry and this business and selling the home and the business. And there's a lot of moving parts, but something we're working to try and solve as well. Keegan, looking forward to maybe referring some folks your way. So any trends you're seeing in the industry right now, or things that like the model evolving over the next few years?
Yeah, I'm trying to tell everyone I know. I'm super bullish on this space, assisted living. Everyone knows the stat who listens to this podcast. I think we're like 1 million beds short. And then you have the baby boomers who are increasing. I think I'm uniquely qualified to see the space, being a physical therapist who works in the big facilities, also owning a small facility and kind of investing in real estate. Yeah. I tell a lot of people residential assisted living is so much better for their family. You can't tell me how many times I've heard in the bigger facilities that someone falls, nobody comes for 10, 12 hours. I've worked so many bigger facilities across the country, and it's just like the caregiver ratios. It's 1 caregiver for 20 residents. It's nuts. And to think families are very blinded by this. So they see a super nice facility. They're like, let's move them in. This looks fun. But they don't see the underlying lack of staff. And that's why I think these homes are very important. And I think given demographics and population and everything, I think I'm super bullish. Yeah.
Same. I couldn't agree more. And I think there've been a lot of stories we've heard, those same stories. I think almost everyone has a story of a loved one in a facility where help didn't come. And yeah, facilities are the F word, right, around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have a very unique skill set, which is really interesting. Now you got your real estate license. So yeah, you're going to be doing great things. We'll get on a call a year from now and you'll have 10 homes. It'll be cool.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. We'll see.
Can you get that? If someone, let's say, was in your neighborhood and wanted to hang out with you, how would our listeners best reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram. It's Keegan_Schaub. And then you can email me, Keegan.Schaub@gmail.com.
Sweet.
That works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Keegan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed your insights, really enjoyed learning about your background and how you're able to manage a home from afar without a manager. It can be done. Okay. You heard it here first, folks.
Yes.
It has been awesome learning from you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, this was a blast. I love being on here. And yeah, thank you for what you provide. This is a lot of great information.
Sweet.
Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is the RAL room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.